Hi, and welcome to this video on how to use code analyzers on your AL code. Hey, I'm Eric, and in this video we're going to use the code analyzers that come for AL to make our code more readable, more robust, more predictable, and to get rid of stupid bugs. The app we're going to use is the app that we have been creating in the web services in AL video series. So if you haven't seen that, go check that out. That we're building an app to do address verification through the US Postal Service web service, and it's beginning to take shape. So at this point I think it's appropriate that we actually start cleaning up this app, and the way to do that is to use the code analyzers. Code analyzers are also sometimes known as code cops. Probably not the most appropriate title for a piece of software these days. But anyway, so let's get going. Here is my trusty old Visual Studio Code, and I have the app. And right now the app consists of some page extensions to the vendor and customer list and cards, set up for the app, a management code unit of all the code, and a table for keeping the addresses to compare with, and some UI for that. So in order to turn on the code analyzers, we need to go to the gear and look in settings. So in Visual Studio Code, you have settings in two spots. You have global settings. That means that's global in the sense that your computer is global. And then you have workspace settings. And since you don't want necessarily these things to happen on every single piece of AL code you ever write, we will configure this per workspace. So workspace is actually just your app. So we'll go to workspace, extension, find the AL language app, and we will find here the code analyzers. So editing settings. And what actually happened, you can see in the VS Code folder, we got a new file called settings.json. So now I can specify that I want the app source cop, I want the code cop, and I want the UI cop. The pretend extension cop is the one that has the rules that covers if you're just doing a PTE, but since we're pretending that this thing will eventually go into app source, I'll use the app source cop. Then I also need to actually say that the al.code analysis is enabled. And I want to add something called the AL rule set path. So this is an extra file where we can help telling the different code analyzers how they should work. And that's it, saved. Let me go and add that file, this file, right away. We can see as soon as I saved it, all my code turned yellow, and we can see that I have already, see that down here? I don't know if we can make that bigger. See, I have 9 errors and 55 warnings. So this is gonna be a long video, sorry guys. Let me start by adding new file, alrules.json, and the syntax of this one, you can find it on docs.microsoft, or you can just do as I do. So we call this one YouTube rules. And the script, wow, description will be rules for US Postal Service app. And then we have the actual rules, and the actual rules that we want to customize is an array. So we'll save that for now. We need to add one more file. It was not specified up there, but trust me, we need one more file called the app source carp.json. This one tells that mandatory affixes. So what is a mandatory affix? So mandatory affix is something that is needed on all global names, either as a prefix or postfix. So even though your objects are sitting inside an extension, those objects, when uploaded to a tenant, an environment, a database, whatever you call it, are sitting in a global naming space. So in order to prevent, especially on the public cloud, we don't want two apps to suddenly create the same object and break each other and stuff like that. So Microsoft demands that all apps that goes into App Source are using this for all the public names. And then we need also tell that we have a list of supported countries, and in this case I'm just gonna say US and Canada. That's probably the countries that will use this app right now. Okay, I'll save that, and then I will reload Visual Studio Code, developer reload window, because whenever you are messing with these files, the AL compiler that's always running behind the scenes is having a hard time figuring out that these files suddenly appeared or disappeared. So just reload, and you're resetting the compiler to whatever you have right now. So I'll close these, I'll close this one, and then we'll wait for the judgment of how bad our app is. 78 issues, problems. Okay, there's only one way of attacking this. This is simply one problem at a time. We can see that it's 22 errors and 55 warnings. So let's get going. So the first one, that's an easy one. I love easy problems because there's a neat solution. And the translation file flag must be added to the features array in app source in app.json. So when you're putting something on app source, you need to have translations, and there is a feature called translation file that will handle all translation, and that needs to be activated on an app like this. I'll save, and bam, 77 problems to go. The manifest property brief must be specified. So we haven't really touched all the neat fields in app.json in this. So let's use postal service address verification, and let me put that into brief and description. Let me make sure that the publisher is, right now I'm just going to write Eric Hogarth. So the publisher at some point needs to match the publisher that's created in App Source that's going to publish the app. Otherwise we'll get an error when submitting to App Source. But we'll get to that challenge a bit later. Then we need to add some URLs. Privacy statement should be a real page, but hey. And True App needs a logo. So before this, I created a US Postal Service logo, so I will just specify that in here. I'll save it, and all the red lines went away, the squiggly lines, and let's build again just to get, so now we're already at 70. Hey, this is going great. The identifier customer list extension must have at least one of the mandatory affixes. Okay, so this is an object. I'm always going to rename objects. I'll put my postfix on. You can see the same thing as with action. I press F2, always rename. So in that case, I'm sure that if there's any references to these things, they will also get renamed. In this case, the object is a page extension, so there's no reference to that one. I'll save that one, and let's do the same on the vendor. and I'll just do these rename of object names and actions. And we can see we have other issues, but we'll get back to that. Okay, 62 issues. Here we go. So these are just warnings. So the US address verified table must also have my, so we'll do that. Save that. Then we have the management code unit. We'll do the same thing here. There are some fancy renaming tools out there. Waldo's tool. And I just have a handful of objects here, so I'm just going to do it manually so you guys can see what goes on. Let's see what the next arrow is. That's the setup table. So we'll do the same thing here. Probably need to learn to spell my own name. And we have the setup page. So as soon as we rename a table, we lose the data we have. So before I can actually run this again, I need to locate that pesky code I had somewhere. So I don't think we're going to run this app in this session. Okay, so now there's one more. So the last one is our enum for the different types that we can verify the address on. So I'm just going to rename that. And then let's build 56 and the package is created. So we went from 77 to 56. So that was 19 or 21 actually. Wow, good math skill. 21 errors due to the app source requirement. So we still have 56 to go. So let's take a look at that. So the customer AL has an incorrect name. The valid name is customer list extension. Well, so I'm not gonna have, so this is rule AA0215. I'm not gonna have Microsoft dictate how I name my files. So I'll go into the AL rules and then I'll create a new entry here. And ID ID is AA0215 and action is hidden, and I can add a justification. No Microsoft, I'll dictate my own file names. Okay, let's save that. Sometimes it will pick it up after the save. Other times, let's just go and reload window. So we were at 56. Let's see where we are at now. So far nothing, but the background compiler just has to kick in and it takes a couple of seconds. So now we're at 46. That was 10 bucks out of the window because we didn't want to notice. So tooltip. And here's a funny one. So let's make sure that you can see this one. So the record customer should be modified before saving to the database. I'm pretty sure I did that. Let's look at it. Let's look at the code here. Customer record. I'm doing a customer.get validate modified true. This is textbook code for how to modify. I'll actually fix those. How to modify records. So clearly, and I've seen this in other cases, this rule called AA0214 simply doesn't work. So let's add it here. Bad rule. There we go. Save. Reload the window once again. Let's close this off, see how it goes. Still just a couple of seconds, then we have our verdict. 40 bugs now, or 40 warnings. So tooltip. Okay, variable result text is unused in verify vendor address. So this is a classic. I think we used that variable at some point before we split the functions, and now this one actually got copied from another function. So we have never used that variable in here. So we can get rid of it. We should only have variables that we're using. And now we can see the blue squiggly line. So one of the, in nav, you would write like this, compare_rec.init, semicolon. It's fine. Now Microsoft prefer that we actually show that function calls are with parentheses. And I think that makes sense. So that was another bug gone, and I think we have one on commit down here also. And let's scroll through. So verify customer address. Here's a bunch of variables that are unused also, because that was before we split a function and we just copied all the variables to the split function, but we did not remove them from where we copied it from. So we can get rid of all this, including the result text. So that's like 5 bucks again. And we can see another one of the compare rec thing. So let's add parentheses to that. And there's probably a commit down here that needs a parenthesis also. And here's another result text, because we're never using that one again. Let's scroll by and see if okay, here's a fun one. So let's actually look and see. Here, possible overflow assigning text to text 100. So what happens here is that we create a great function called getField that will get a value from an XML structure. And it's down here somewhere, getField. And it just returns the text. But then we're trying to assign a text, and text is of any size, into a field that's a size 100. So in reality, in order for us to get rid of this warning, we should truncate that string to the size of where we're going. So that would be the size of this field. And how do we do that? We do a copy string, 1 comma, and then there's a neat function called the max string length of a field here, and then parentheses end. So what we did now is saying that we want to copy all that we can from this output to the size of our input variable. I'm not going to do it for all of these. So I just did it for one. I'll do that off camera at some point, so we have it. So that was a real bug that we prevented here, because if for some reason US Postal Service returns something big, then our app would break. Okay, so let's keep going and see what else we have. Variable v is unused in getField bool. I think that's because in our get field we eventually at the beginning used a variant, and then we did not use it anymore, and we never cleaned up our variables. So again, okay. So more tooltips. Okay, so here's the last thing before we talk about tooltips. So the page you're supposed to verify address, should use the users category and application area property to be searchable. But I don't want this page to be searchable. So what you actually do, that you should actually say to the system explicit that you do not want this page to be searchable. So you add a users category of none. And when you have none, then you do not need to specify the application area. If you had something else, then you would still need to add the application area for it. But let's see, if we change this to none, then application area becomes an error. So if you have no intent of making that page searchable, then tell the system user category equal none. This will prevent that Microsoft at some point in the future figure out that, hey, maybe we want to make something searchable after all, and then suddenly your page will show up and then everything would break. So at this point, let's go back. We have 25 issues left. Tooltip, 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 overflow, 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 tooltip, 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 tooltip. Okay, so 2 issues. Let's talk tooltips for a second. Here is our action to verify an address, and all actions should have a tooltip. So when you mouse over, you tell the customer, you tell your user that verify the address of this customer with the US Postal Service. And I'll probably need a couple extra spelling thing here. So I can add that, and I need to add that to the other places it needs, and then go on. So now we're at 23, so those 2 are the same. We talked about so the same thing here. This is the setup page. So use the tooltip to tell what is the what's the default value. Where should you go find something to make sure that the user gets as a pleasant experience as possible. And when we're done with these, and I've done all the copy strings here, then our app would be problem free, which probably the next video where this app will be in use. I have done this just off camera. There's no reason for you guys to look at me typing all the time. So that's how I use all the code analyzers, and that's how I try to make sure that my code is as clean as possible, as correct as possible. So we use the cards both to find potential programming bugs like the overflow. We use the code, the analyzers to clean up leftovers like unused variables because we moved the code around. We use the analyzers to add in options that we forgot to set. So this is the default. All my apps have all these things turned on, and those couple of rules turned off because they don't work. So with that, if you like videos like this, let me know in the comments below. Follow subscribe to the YouTube channel. That really helps. Follow me on Twitter, and reach out if there's anything you think I should do video on, or let me know if you use different rules and different settings on them. I would love to hear that. Then until next time, have a wonderful day.